well, first of all, who's native? Which is a really complicated, more complicated than you might imagine to answer. And then how do you provide accountability? So first of all, there are people who are not, well, I should first of all back up and say this. Who's native is complex because of these things. So being native, among other things, is a political status. So the political definition of being indigenous is being an enrolled member of a federally recognized tribe. If somebody is an enrolled member of a federally recognized tribe, that usually says that they are indigenous. And I have to say usually, not always. And there's more to say about that. I'm not sure if you're familiar, and it takes a lot to unpack this properly on such a tough topic, but when the Cherokee were forced to march on the Trail of Tears, some Cherokee citizens had kept black chattel slaves. They were forced to march on the Trail of Tears too, all the way to Oklahoma. Many died. From then till now, most of the so-called Cherokee freedmen have intermarried with Cherokee citizens and are living in Oklahoma and had become citizens. But there were still some who were not citizens in the Cherokee Nation and petitioned the Cherokee Nation, saying, by the blood we shed and the oppressions we endured, we should be entitled to citizenship in this native nation. And in 2017, the Cherokee Nation Supreme Court afforded citizenship to all of the Cherokee freedmen as an act of justice. So, and it's not just there, where some tribal citizens are not biologically indigenous, but especially in Canada, there was a long history where if a white man married a Native woman, he would become a status First Nation member. And even if they divorced, would retain his First Nation citizenship and status. Even if he married a white woman and had more kids, those kids would be eligible for First Nation status. Being a citizen of a Native nation usually means being biologically indigenous, but not always. There's an important caveat because it's hard to pick one easy objective criteria that satisfies everyone perfectly. There's also a biological definition of being indigenous. And different people will draw the lines in different ways. But you could actually even do a 23andMe or an Ancestry.com, and it will determine if the alleles in your DNA include indigenous stuff. There's a way to determine that. But that will not entitle someone to political status as an enrolled member of a tribe. And then people have questions about is the 1/264th indigenous enough? But then you start getting into subjective arguments about how much blood is enough blood and that kind of thing. The other criteria are even more subjective. Connected to community, do you know your language, do you know your history? And pretty soon you run into really trying to out-Indian one another or having a committee that's going to decide. It gets clunky. And the other thing that makes it difficult to give you a really great answer about who's native is that a third, 1 out of 3 Native kids have been removed from their homes and placed into foster care or adoption. And so there are a lot of people who were disconnected from their communities through no fault of their own. And there are layers of complexity to this. A lot of the Latino, Latina, Latinx, Latina population, the brown part does not come from Castile. It is indigenous blood. And so really who's native is a complex question. And you will find, I bet if you did a survey of the natives in this room, I bet you would find about 20 different opinions about what criteria we should focus on. So that is one thing just to bear in mind with this really great question. The other thing to bear in mind is that there are some people who are not tribal citizens, also are not biologically indigenous, and have postured themselves as authentically indigenous. And it does cause harm because they often haven't had to navigate the same crap that indigenous people have. And when they push through and become whatever, the first, singer, academic, whatever the positions are where they're excelling, where they're taking, either position or financially benefiting from their misrepresentation. And there's a worthy, authentic Native person who was vying for that opportunity and did not get the attention while that person became whatever, So it does cause harm. So I think, you need accountability. And at the same time, we also need to remember our values and operate with those. Criteria for being an enrolled member of a tribe, I predict, like the blood quantum, 25% blood quantum, in most places, I think it will go. It will be dispensed with over time. And the reason is that system was set up to have us kind of breed ourselves out of existence. And right now, most tribal members have some biological family who's biologically indigenous, who is not eligible for tribal citizenry. The politics of exclusion are hurting a lot of Native people who love being Native, are biologically Native, are often even culturally or linguistically Native, and are still denied inclusion in the Native polity. Many, many tribes already have hit an enrollment cliff where they're like losing citizens so fast that it will challenge the ability to be a sovereign nation. Like Grand Portage, Minnesota, only has 80 children left on the tribal roll. If they do not change their criteria for citizenship, they will very soon have only 80 tribal citizens. And convincing the rest of the world that they are a sovereign nation gets harder to do. And to be able to run a tribal election and represent and actually run a tribal government becomes much harder to do. It is an existential threat. So I think most places will be shifting that, but boy, is that testy. And it's ironic because I think one of the drivers for the resistance for, some Native people are like, the folks who stayed here kept the language going, kept the culture going, didn't marry everybody else. Now we're going to be minorities in our own Native nation, and our ideas about what's important are going to be voted out, and there's this fear of scarcity, that we're going to have less. And it's supercharged for a casino per cap tribe. Because then you're asking them to vote to dilute a financial benefit for existing Native citizens. There aren't that many. There are some, like Saginaw Chips, for example, has a per cap, it's substantial, and that makes it a little tougher, for them to navigate this particular one. But most tribes will be required to make the change or they won't exist. So I think you are going to see that shift and change, but it will be piecemeal. There will be resistance and weird feelings about it. And I don't have a perfect answer. It's probably a little more art than science, but I do think we need to call it out and bring attention to it when somebody is radically misrepresenting themselves. But I think it is dangerous to call someone, whose parents were enrolled tribal members, but they're not, a descendian and less than and not authentic, and to exclude them, from indigeneity. And I think when we are too mean-spirited in our corrective accountability call, which does need to happen, then it poisons the well, because there are so many people adopted and fostered out and wanting to reconnect, who feel like I wouldn't dare show up at a ceremony because someone's going to shout me down for being a pretendian, and I'll just stay away. And then like we are denying them healing that our ancestors would never have understood, why we would deny them healing and connection. And we are denying ourselves an expansive tribal citizenry where all of our young people can be called into action for our language, culture, sovereignty, and everything else. And so, yes to accountability, but I think we also need to set a tone about who we really are and what we really stand for. And we should stand for all of our people, not just the citizens of Native nations. Although being a citizen of a Native nation does mean something real.